to select the next 4. Now I'm going to select Grenade Man to be the first one I'm going to face. They're all pretty easy in the first set of 4. I think Tengu Man's probably the hardest of the first set of 4. And to get going, get warmed up in the game, I usually start with either Grenade Man or Frost Man. Now since I'm not going to be collecting a whole lot of items, and I don't need the other items to get certain other ones, since I'm not going to be collecting that much throughout this title, you can do the Robot Masters in any order, especially the first 4, and then you can select any order of the second 4. The interesting thing is, in the second set of 4, and we'll get to it when we actually get to that second 4, I'll explain a little bit more about it, you'll actually have to use all the previous abilities from the first 4 in order to progress through that stage. Now, for the actual platforming and moving in Mega Man 8, it's not too much different from the ones that we faced before, and actually, it's more similar, I think, to the NES style of movement and such than Mega Man 7. I guess because people had complained, or it wasn't as well received, that they went ahead and changed it a little bit up. We can see a lot of our same moves, and a lot of the same robots are actually back, or just new incarnations of the same robots that we've been facing, including the exploding platforms that we land on, and then they have a couple of second countdown before exploding. We also have red versions of these in this game. When you land on them, they actually get on the ground and start walking away, and then they explode. We'll have to use them through some interesting platforming later on in the title. Our charge and slide ability both fully return. The best thing or most interesting thing about the controls being a PlayStation game, having a lot more buttons and such, or having at least as many buttons as the SNES, they decided to do something with those extra buttons. They allow you to not only use your Mega Buster at all times, but they also allow you to use the other abilities that you collect. You can use them at the same time as well as the Mega Buster, one button being the Mega Buster, and the other button being those special items that you can use. Now, most of the stages are going to have a mini-boss before a checkpoint. Now, this is our first mini-boss. It's similar kind of to facing Junkman in a way, just because they're using all the trash piles against him. He has a shield that floats around him, which can be destroyed with a full charged-up shot. And you can see when you do so, you can deliver a shot to him. He throws a lot of trash at you, which is pretty easy to dodge from the top of you. Pay more attention, obviously, to that, just so you don't take any extra damage. And then the little bouncing cube, really easy to maneuver around. And it's a good way to start getting used to the boss battles in the game, or at least the mini-boss battles. It bounces into the wall, wait for a full charged-up shot, deliver it to him, and then we've taken him out. He will give us actually an ability right there, and then we'll move to our continue point. As you can see, there's a loading screen in between our 2 points.
Ready.
Now, for defeating that little mini-boss right there, we actually got the Rush Bike, which Rush turns into a motorcycle, and you can ride him around. I'll actually show that off a little bit in this run. I probably won't show off everything, because I usually always forget to, at least during my runs, because I'm more focused on trying to defeat the game without losing a life or without taking too much damage. But I will definitely show off the Rush Bike. It's one of my favorites of any ability that Rush has gotten throughout the Mega Man franchise. Now here we have some more of the platforming on the bombs, but we start to see these little flame guys that come out, and they light the fuse of the blocks, and then they explode, and you gotta make sure that you're off the blocks before they obviously blow up. But we're gonna have to wait a second here. One will come out, he'll light the fuse, it'll start to explode, but then you gotta quickly slide over. If you want, if you're really quick about it, you can get that screw right there, that bolt, and then jump to the ladder real fast to be able to continue the level, and you got yourself one of the bolts that are harder to collect. Because of the added graphic capabilities of the PlayStation, we can see that we definitely have all the background being involved and the foreground. A lot more graphics are able to be used for different pitfalls and different stuff that we'll have to deal with. Now, here is our first Robot Master of Mega Man 8. This is Grenade Man. And he has lovely voice acting work like all these other Robot Masters are going to have in all the characters in the game. Now, as far as strategy goes with Grenade Man, his main abilities is he has his Flash Bomb, which we're actually going to be getting from him when we defeat him. He charges across the screen, which that's always easy to dodge if you're prepared for it. His only other one is when he jumps straight up in the air, does an arcing jump wherever he's going to land, he always shoots out 3 grenades or 3 little bombs that always will fall short of you if you're close enough to him. So the closer, if you're close to him, they'll go right over your head and miss you, or you can try to dodge them, but that's a little bit tougher to do. after a while of doing damage to him, he explodes the ground, and you have a little bit uneven platforming to do against him, making the battle a little bit more challenging, but that's usually when he's very low on health. And then just deliver the last couple of shots to him, beat him, and you then get his ability. Now with our first Robot Master defeated, we're going to move ahead to Frostman.
I'm Frostman.
Now Frostman is definitely one of the easier Robot Masters to face. His stage, however, is very difficult to deal with. We have this rocket ski part that we're going to have to do in 2 parts of this stage, and then again in the first of the Wily stages, which is very difficult to deal with. Thankfully, we start off the stage pretty easy with just some ice little platforming to move around. Of course, being on the ice is going to be a little bit more slippery and a little bit less friction to deal with. Move to the right a little bit, you get into an elevator part. When the elevator reaches the top here, we'll have our first of that rocket ski areas to deal with. You can see all the bat enemies that we've seen in the previous Mega Man games return, and they usually drop a good amount of items if you do need them. Now here is the first rocket ski area of the game. The only way to get good at this whole thing is by practicing it and memorizing the exact pattern of the platforms. It's the only way to get good at it. It's very challenging to deal with because you're going to have to face the enemies as well as some tough jumps. Now it starts off pretty easily. The only thing you'll have to do is jump and slide, because obviously that's pretty much all you can do other than fire on the ski. Now you can take damage and it won't affect you too much, but if you take a hit obviously while trying to make a jump, you'll end up losing a life because you'll end up getting hit right into a pit. And we can move across that without having to jump across. We have to make long jumps across gaps, slide under the spikes. Watch out for these enemies. The worst are definitely those big guys that drop all those little bombs on you as soon as they get to you. Those are the most annoying of the enemies throughout this whole area. Now it starts to get a little bit more tougher. We have a lot of quick jumps on small platforms that we'll have to deal with. Then we'll have to slide here. Now those things, you can stay on them as long as you don't try to go backwards on them and try to jump backwards. If you just stay on them, you're not going to fall off, and they'll just start to open as you continue on. Thankfully though, that ends the first set of the rocket ski part, and that's actually our continuation point for this stage. So now you can see the stage has turned into a night stage in a very beautiful cityscape in the background there of this area at nighttime. And we have to deal with these ice cubes that kind of get thrown out of this giant whale machine and then are shot at us. Thankfully this whole area in between the 2 rocket ski parts is pretty tame in comparison. Now Mega Man 8 was released on the PlayStation 1 first, but then it was actually ported to the Sega Saturn. They actually made some graphical changes, different stages and such. They also made the Robot Masters a little bit more challenging to deal with, as well as they added 2 previous Robot Masters from Mega Man 1 and Mega Man 2. They added Cutman and they added Woodman from Mega Man 2. So that made for at least a little bit more nostalgia factor in the whole like 10th anniversary thing going on in Mega Man 8. Unfortunately, neither one of those were included in the PlayStation 1 release of the title. Now once again we have another elevator part. We'll have to take out some more bats and hopefully get a couple items if we do need them. At which case we'll then move on to our second of the rocket ski parts, and this obviously is going to be tougher than the first part. Once again, the best strategy is to keep doing it, dying, and then just slightly get farther because you know what's about to come at you next. Also, by doing it several times, you may be able to memorize it, in which case that's probably your best chance of being able to get through it. Also realizing that sliding backwards sometimes on a slide area can help you out. As you can see, I did use it once during that whole spike area. I was able to slide backwards so that I was on the far left of the screen, still made it under the ceiling there, and then I was prepared to make the long jump right afterwards. Thankfully, that's over, at least for a while now. We'll have to wait till Wily Stage 1 to deal with that again. But now we have our battle with Frostman.
Crush you. I'll make a popsicle of you.
Now he is one of the much bigger robot masters, similar to what we start seeing maybe with more of the X series, even in X1 with Flame Mammoth, seeing more bigger robot masters, or at least one or two of them in certain games. Now his battle is pretty easy to deal with. He has that ground pound move there that sends that kind of wave of ice at you, which will freeze you in place, allowing for a free hit as well as doing damage. That's easy to jump over, and then when he just knocks the little blocks off the conveyor area at the top here, they're going to be pretty easy to move around as well. The real thing you have to deal with is right here you're seeing his kind of desperation move, knocking all the blocks off. He has a frost punch, which, there it is right there. You can see him charging up for it, and then he charges at you. If you don't have really enough space between you, the wall, and him, it's going to be hard to dodge that frost punch. That's easily the hardest of the moves that Frostman has in hitting you. Hopefully, in the battles against him, he doesn't use it too often.